Welcome back to my crystal ball. Up next we have, oh god, these are not going to be pronounced right. Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen versus Tamura Shigaraki from My Hero Academia. So what's the theme here? Crazy guy with blue-gray hair versus crazy guy with blue-gray hair. I'm not sure it's the most inspired matchup, but I've certainly seen worse. I'm going way out of my comic book comfort zone here, so you're going to learn about these characters right along with me. Come see how a complete outsider to anime made after Outlaw Star weighs in on this matchup. So this guy, Mahito, he's a cursed spirit. That means he's born from the ambient negative emotions of mankind. The guys in the Jujutsu Kaisen verse just aren't lucky enough to get thought forms born from positive emotions. They live in a world where it's always demons, never angels. That's got to suck. That's the spiritual equivalent of living in a world where it's always rainy, never sunny. Mahito has enhanced physical abilities due to being a demon guy, but his main power is being able to manipulate the very cursed energy that created him. Mahito most commonly uses cursed energy to alter bodies, not in the subtle shapeshifter spy way, but in the overt David Cronenberg way. If he touches you with his hands, he can turn you into the love child of Billy Quizboy and Joseph Merrick. He can turn you into something that'll drop dead because it's entirely unsuitable for life. And that's if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, you survive as the baby from Eraserhead for the rest of your life. Mahito can also use his power on himself to give himself wings, whips, giant limbs, and the ability to regenerate. He's like a cross between Carnage and Stretch Armstrong. Mahito's body-shaping power doesn't act on bodies directly, however. His power changes the shape of a person's soul, and as the shape of the soul goes, so does the body. That he targets souls instead of bodies allows him to do stuff like push two souls that reject each other together to create an explosion, or combine several souls that only weakly reject each other to create a fighting flesh golem. Mahito also has a transformation and a super move. He can molt himself to enter a form in which he's twice as strong and tough through a technique called Instant Spirit, Body of Distorted Killing. Ain't that a name? A times 2 transformation doesn't seem all that impressive to me, but maybe that's just because I've been spoiled by Dragon Ball and all their times 20s and times 50s. Mahito's super move is called Self-Embodiment of Perfection. It allows him to instantly touch the souls of those around him. No physical contact required, in a given area at the cost of expending a lot of cursed energy. Oh, one more small power to mention. Mahito can use cursed energy to pull off a technique called Black Flash, sort of like Bruce Lee's one-inch punch with a blacklight glow. It deals 2.5 times the damage of a regular punch, but I think it's rather underwhelming compared with the ability to Cronenberg dudes with a touch. But hey, did you know that back in 1939, Provincetown, Massachusetts was haunted by a spring-heeled Jack-like figure called the Black Flash? He shows up right at the cusp of the golden age of superhero comics, a little after Superman and a little before Batman, and yet no one has tried putting him into a superhero setting. What does that have to do with this fight? Nothing. Nothing at all. But this is the weird comic book history channel. Expect me to drop history factoids on you. In a flash. Moving on, Mahito's opponent, Shigaraki, comes from My Hero Academia, a setting which is like Earth X meets Naruto. Everyone on the planet has superpowers, called quirks, outside rare individuals called quirkless. 99.9% of quirks are fundamentally trivial and wouldn't be worth even a background Morlock having an X-Men. This means the small minority of quirk-havers with decent powers have the burden of protecting everyone else from monster men, Umbrella Corp bows, and this guy, who is the final boss of the series. He hates everyone. He wants to kill everyone. He wears the hands of his family who he killed. And oh God, why does he keep one over his face? Doesn't it smell? I bet it smells like formaldehyde and sin. This isn't the form he ended up with, however. That would be this Tetsuo-looking form right here. It even has the little red cape. The quirk Shiggy started out with was called Decay. Decay lets him disintegrate anything solid that he touches with his hands, and if anything touches what's in the process of decaying, the decay spreads. This allows him to decay several city blocks with just one touch. Now that's impressive, but hold on there, young ones. Let Grandpa show you how to throw a real death touch. This is Adventure Comics 352. This is Mono of the Fatal Five, and this is his death touch. See? You gotta go for the whole planet. You gotta shame Kratos and show him something he will never be able to do. What are you supposed to do when the planet explodes beneath your feet, you might ask? That's what the funky spacesuit is for. Because going down with the ship is for sea captains and depressives, and you are neither. The spacesuit lets you float to another planet and do it all over again. Because as Superman taught us, being the lone survivor of a planetary massacre leads to a lifetime of survivor's guilt. But being the lone survivor of a planetary massacre that you yourself caused is just a barrel of laughs. Just look at Frieza. Just look how happy he is. How can so much joy be wrong? In addition to his death touch, Shiggy has the ability to absorb powers for his own, like the first version of Amazo. But unlike Amazo, his victims don't redevelop their powers after a time. When Shiggy steals a quirk, it's gone for good. Not that it really matters much to Mahito, since he's curse-powered and not quirk-powered. In that respect, Shiggy isn't so much like Amazo as he is Sylar. You know, the guy from Heroes? Oh, you probably don't know what that is. Well, Heroes was... But I already went on and on about the Black Flash and Mano. Hey, just Google Heroes. Shiggy has developed a small arsenal of stolen quirks. Let's see. He's got the following. Regeneration in the Deadpool and Wolverine sense. The ability to see people through walls and identify their weak points. The ability to manipulate and disrupt radio waves. The ability to fire air blasts from his hands. The ability to create black tentacles called rivets to stab people with. The ability to, and I quote, increase the amount of damage being dealt. It's called heavy payload. I'm not sure how exactly it increases damage or to what extent it increases damage, but apparently he can combine heavy payload with the radio and air blast quirks to fire a giant lightning beam. Oh, and he can scatter the beam because his next quirk, appropriately called Scatter, lets him scatter projectiles. Man, some of these powers are weirdly specific. He's got spring-like limbs, which lets him coil his muscles to produce greater strength. He can grow black wings and use them to fly, but note that though the quirk is called Wing, he does in fact grow 2 of them. He's got a danger sense which works like Spidey sense. He knows if something is about to drop the boom on him. Hey, hold on a minute. Did you see the font shrink? The font just shrank. I don't know about you, but I've got a bad feeling about Mahito's chances. Anyway, Shiggy's got the ability to fly in the classic Superman sense, which makes the wing quirk completely useless by comparison. He's got the ability to shoot black lightning, which is completely useless next to that electric beam combo he can pull. And finally, he's got a quirk called Repulsion. Going by the name, you might think it has something to do with repulsive force. Maybe you're thinking of Vector from the UFOs. But what the quirk actually does is create floating rings that generate a force on whoever passes through them. Shiggy uses them to boost his speed. So yes, it's Superman 64, but as a power. Wow, what a weird bunch of stolen quirks. But you want to know the weirdest part? What's probably his most important power, his super strength, which lets him throw hands with the top tiers of his universe, isn't a quirk at all, But do correct me in the comments, Academia fans, if I'm wrong about this. Apparently, he gets his strength from surgery. He's one of those modified human types common to Showa Kamen Rider shows. Now, with both outfighters introduced, it's time to talk about who is going to win the fight. Let's start our examination by looking at the fight in the most simplistic light. Mahito and Shigi walk up to each other and slap each other. What happens to Mahito? Mahito dissolves, but because all he needs is his own soul to regrow mass, he regenerates. To stop the regeneration, Shigi would have to force him to regenerate again and again until he exhausted his cursed energy. That means he would have to slap him many, many times, because Mahito is said to have a lot of cursed energy inside him. What happens to Shigi? Well, while a guy with super strength and adaptable flesh would weather Mahito turning him into a living Funko Pop better than most, there's still a limit. Say Mahito turned Shigi's entire nervous system into the size of a penny. He'd be like those giants from Planetary Issue 8, effectively brain dead and trapped in his own body. Now, some people say that Mahito wouldn't be able to affect Shigi because, get this, My Hero Academia characters don't have souls. Is that really what you want to do, Academia fans? You want to argue that your characters are soulless automatons without the blessing of a divine spark just to win a versus match? I'm going to have to disagree with the characters not having souls. They've got mindscapes and quirk vestiges that look like Force ghosts from Star Wars. I'm going to say they have souls, or things close enough to souls to count. In fact, I think the default assumption for any given fictional universe is that everyone has souls, because everyone in real life has souls. Missed me with that materialism. Now, I understand quibbling over how different series portray how souls work. For instance, there's a good argument to be made that Mahito's power wouldn't work on people from the Marvel Universe, because X-Men telepaths change how their souls look during astral combat all the time without changing how their physical bodies look. And, believe it or not, the default shape of the average human soul in Marvel is that of a butterfly. Hey, I'm not making that part up. Go read some old Satana comics in Vampire Tales. But I don't see any such argument for My Hero Academia souls. That all aside, I doubt Mahito could simply one-shot Shigi by touching him. Shigi keeps his psyche buried deep within his soul behind several quirk vestiges. It would probably take a few pokes before Mahito gets to his soul. On the other hand, Shigi can destroy Mahito's body with just a touch, but then Mahito can just regenerate until he runs out of cursed energy. If the fight was just the two poking each other until one died, I would say Mahito would win, because I think Shigi would run out of soul protection before Mahito runs out of mana. But there's more elements to this fight to consider. Consider that Shigi has a spidey sense, can fly very fast, and has several ranged attacks. As soon as the bell rings, Shigi gets a brain blast, telling him not to let the flesh freaker touch him. He flies up and spams lightning blasts and tosses buildings at Mahito, until Mahito runs out of mana for his regeneration. That should do it. Mahito cannot reliably close the gap. He can make flesh wings, but those aren't going to help much. Wings work by beating air currents to create lift. Shigi can disrupt Mahito's air currents with an air blast. There's just no real way for Mahito to close the gap. Mahito would have to use his domain expansion and hope to catch Shigi unawares, but I doubt even that would work. The danger sense would tip Shigi off, and with the Superman 64 rings, I think he could get out of the way before the domain expansion goes off. And once Mahito's missed, he's pretty much done, because he's out of mana to spend for regeneration. So, yeah, I'm putting my marker on Shigi, winning the fight fairly easily. When the battle is between two dudes with a death touch, it makes sense that the one that wins is the one that's the best at not getting touched, right?